Let's try that again. Welcome to DevSecOn London. Yeah, as I said, DevSecOn London is a part of a global community. So if you're watching from anywhere in the world or you're here and you'd like to see any of our other talks, you can catch them for their live streams as well as watch them on demand on YouTube or on our website. DevSecOn is actually proudly brought to you by Sneaks or in their offices today. Their aim is to help educate, enable developers and application security humans in security stuff. So thanks to them for having us and doing the beer and pizza and for everyone watching. Also, we have another event on the 16th of October, which I will share the details at the end of today's talk. So if you enjoyed today and you want to come along, we do these every month. Our chapter leader is actually Andrew Martin. Unfortunately, he can't be here today. He's from the team from Control Plane. So huge thanks to them for also helping us get everything going. I think that's enough from me. I'm actually going to hand over to our wonderful speaker, Chris, who is Why You Came. And he is going to be talking to you. It's time to put your pet Kubernetes down.
Hello, thank you. That works. Cool, awesome. Well, imagine a thing with some actual human faces. What a treat. So I get to stand up, not worry about being on mute, kind of, and use my clicker and everything. So, as it stops. Tech's great, right? We'll start again. Oh, not that the first slide really mattered. Share the screen, share the thing.
Anyone watching, come and soon.
Right,
Cool.
is that any better? Are we good? Cool. Yes, cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, tech things, right? But whatever. So to kick things off, my name is Chris Nesbitt Smith, based in London, and currently work with some kind of reasonably well-known brands like Learn K8, Control Plane, eSynergy, and various bits of UK government. I'm also a tinkerer of a fair amount of open source stuff. I've been using and abusing Kubernetes in production since it was 0.4. So believe me when I say it's been a journey. I've definitely got the scars and war wounds to show for it. So we should hopefully have time for, or should definitely have time for questions and preferably heckles at the end. If not, come find me afterwards. I'm reasonably obvious to spot in pink trousers. So the history of pets versus cattle terminology is muddy, but most link it to a presentation by Bill Baker from Microsoft made in 2006 around scaling the SQL server. So way back then in the before times, we called ourselves sysadmins and treated our servers like pets. So, for example, Bob, the mail server. If Bob goes down, it's hands to the pumps. The CEO can't get his email, and it's near enough the end of the world. We do some incantations, make some sacrifices at an altar, resuscitate Bob, and bring him back from the dead. Crisis averted, cue the applause and accolades for our valiant sysadmins who stayed up late into the night. In the new world, however, servers are numbered or maybe given GUIDs like cattle in a herd. So, for example, you're kind of Web 01 to Web 100, and when one server goes down, it's taken out the back, shot, and replaced on the line. But why am I telling you a rather morbid story about cattle? Kubernetes kind of deals with all of this, right? And saves us from this tyranny. And you're right, it does. All your computers are called nodes and abstracted and given some arbitrary names. Auto-scaling groups and such will automatically detect the sick in your flock, take them out the back, and bring a replacement in, all while seamlessly-ish rescheduling the workload that was on that failed node. And Kubernetes takes that a step further. Your workload also has unique names too. So like the physical servers, your workload failures can be detected and replaced mostly seamlessly. So where's the pet, you might ask? Well, what's the first thing that we normally do with a brand new Kubernetes cluster? I'll give you a hint. It's not deploying your application or anything at all that your business gives a what's it about. Something like that look familiar? Yeah, so we had to do loads of things to just get this cluster able to start running our workloads. And it's worth noting that with a trend towards kind of more and more features being kind of out of tree, that is to say that they are optional add-ons and don't ship with the core Kubernetes. So examples of this are things like flex volumes, policy, and basically all the Kubernetes SIG projects that many now find essential are just exasperating this issue. Well, that might work when you've got a single cluster, but what about when you've got dev, integration, staging, QA that your app needs to run on. Of course, when you need, and then of course, worse, when you need separation from between your teams or your products. So maybe you've automated that. Bash, Ansible, Terraform, whatever you like. Cool. Good on you. However, you'll find it won't be long before there's an updated version of something, perhaps patching a vulnerability that you care about, and you may find yourself stuck trying to test every single app across your estate. So this is what we're calling day 2 operations in the new world. We used to call it BAU, or business as usual, and it's where kind of reality kind of starts catching up with our idealistic good intentions. So you'll quickly find that these clusters that you're running various versions of, given the rate of change in the community, it's unrealistic to run like latest of everything confidently everywhere without breaking production and disrupting your operational teams. So permutations of seemingly common tool choices. So some teams might use Kong, others Nginx, another Apache, another Envoy, all for plenty good reasons, I'm sure. Seemingly infinite possibilities across the estate emerge. Sad times, right? Well, congratulations, you're now the proud owner of a pet shop. Or if you manage to automate the creation of things, you can call it a pet factory. But nonetheless, a headache. So how does this hurt you, you might ask? Maybe you like pets. Well, presuming, of course, that you're in cloud, your world could roughly be summarized into a few tiers. So apps, well, these are the things that your boardroom probably know about and can probably name. So think your public website, shopping cart system, customer service apps, online chat interfaces, email, and so on. So these are all implicitly providing some value in of themselves to your end customers. Infrastructure with cloud, well, this is all commodity, thankfully. So the days where anyone in your business is caring about the challenges of physically racking up hardware, not overloading the weight in the cabinet, taking pride in how well they've routed the cables and they've all passed. And you're now consuming infrastructure. Hopefully you've codified this, but even if you're into ClickOps, making sure it's running is hopefully not really your problem anymore. So no one in your business is concerned, hopefully, with hardware failures, patching routers every time there's a critical vulnerability, testing UPSs and the generators regularly, upgrading the HVAC, and so on when you add more servers. You're on a rama, as my 17-year-old was saying, and then cursed me for repeating, but your interactions with any of these are generally a few lines of code and some infra is available to you with an SLA attached to it. If only the story ended there, though. Sandwiched between these is a grey layer of all the operational enablers, and it's where your kind of DevOps, SRE, platform engineering kind of team lives. So think log aggregation, certificate issuing, security policies, monitoring, service mesh, and many more. These are the things you do because of all sorts of reasons, ranging from risk mitigation to emotion and technically unqualified opinion, or just without foresight of what was round the corner in 6 months. So let's just make the leap and assume for a minute that you are more technically competent than your Goliath multi-billion-dollar cloud vendor. So you completely negated many of the benefits of going to cloud in the first place by ripping up the shared responsibility model that was on offer. All of this, whilst technically fascinating for people like me to stand and stroke my beard at, this is delivering near on zero business value, unless, of course, your business is building or training on those products. And who'd want to get into that line of work? And that's not all. Well, recruitment. So you might think you want a DevOps, right? So, oh no, wait, DevOps with Kubernetes experience. So maybe a CKA. Oh yeah, it's on AWS and we use Linkerd in some places, in some places Istio. No, not the current version or even the same version everywhere. A mix of pod security policy, Caverno, OPA for policy, some Terraform, Helm, Jenkins, GitHub action soup going on, all in a mono repo apart from all the stuff that isn't. Well, we're well outside of the remit of commodity skills and back to hunting unicorns. Sure, you'll find some victims, candidates that you'll hire. Well, now you've got one hell of an onboarding issue. Before they can do anything useful and help your business move forwards faster than it did without them, and if you've hired some smart people, they'll come with experience and their own opinions of what worked well for them before. So your landscape gets bigger and bigger and more complex and diverse. So I did some Googling. This is what the CNCF landscape looked back way in 2017. Choices, right? Choices and logos as far as the eye can see. Have you seen it recently, though? So this has got a bit out of hand. I'd say someone ought to have a word, but I suspect that would probably just make things worse by adding yet another line of things. And don't get me started on operators. I mean, yeah, fine, nice idea, but they betray any of the ideals of kind of immutability with unnecessary kind of levels of abstraction. And have you seen the crazy mutating emission controllers too? So if you're really mad, you can nest these things with operators that create CRDs for operators that are all mutating. I mean, heaven forbid someone bumps the version on anything. And no doubt, all held together with sticky tape, chewing gum, glue, pipe cleans, thoughts and prayers, and Helm. A string-based templating engine where any community module has to eventually expose every parameter in every object abstracted by glorified string replace. So now I've got to have in my head all of the complexities of a Linux or Windows host, how the container runtime works, the software-defined network, and the storage and the hypervisor before the container, the scheduler, controllers, the auth, and the policy, and the mutating policy in the cluster, before I start worrying about how someone in that nested Helm chart mess of hell has mapped the replica count of one of the deployments to a string called DB replica count, and how that has now changed in the new version of the dependency, not a lat following Semver, to database replica count. So instead of my expected 3, I have 1. When I could have just written a YAML patch for the replica count in the deployment object of the database resource using stable API versioning with schema validation for free. The kids doing Kubernetes don't seem to have learned from the past. Don't get me wrong, I love the open source community with all of my heart. It's so important. And it's simply not possible to do anything in the last couple of years without referencing Log4j. So yes, sidebar, this is my thing, deal with it. It's hopefully at some point it can come out. So everything, literally everything that exists around us, it depends upon open source. And the community is fundamentally brilliant at building some really remarkable, very high quality things. But we must accept that the open source community is awful at packaging things up in this way for consumption, introducing needless abstractions. But enough of that, I'm definitely going to hell now. So happy place, happy place. So where was I? So how to get through all of this? Well, I can't possibly think of a way to go from enthusiastic engineers with exciting new tech to deeply unhappy ones trying to fix something at 4 a.m. And before they can do anything meaningful, they've got an orienteering exercise and switching mental context to whatever the intended permutations of things it is that they're trying to look at. Meanwhile, your business value delivering apps are offline or potentially at worst at breach. So rewind a minute. We didn't want any of these things. How did we get here and what can we do about it? Honestly, bin it all. Kill it with fire. And then learn to love vanilla. I mean, vanilla is great and delicious too. Does anyone remember Kiss? No, not the band, but keep it stupid simple, or keep it simple stupid. And embrace the shared responsibility model that's on offer and make your cloud vendors do more than just provide you some compute. Turns out, as it happens, they're actually not that bad at it. I'm not daft. I know that this isn't kind of sexy or exciting, and you might even find recruitment harder if you're used to hunting magpies that will follow the shiny and don't like boring stuff that works. So to answer the question posed from the title of my talk, is it time to put down your Kubernetes cluster? Yes, it is. And in the immortal words of S Club 7, if you can bring it on back immutably from code or without anyone noticing, which I'm referring to, of course, the original version of those lyrics, then maybe, just maybe, it can earn the right to stay to die another day. I've been Chris Nesbitt Smith. Thank you very much for joining me and enduring my self-loathing. Like, subscribe, whatever the kids do on LinkedIn, GitHub, whatever. You can be rest assured there'll be little or no spam, since I'm pretty awful at self-promotion. CNS.me just points at my LinkedIn, and talks.cns.me contains this and other talks, and they are all open source. Questions are very welcome, or just throw rotten fruit at me. I'll hold the stage for as long as I'm allowed, or find me afterwards. I'll be the grumpy old man in the corner somewhere. Thank you very much.